Welcome to my presentation. It's a pleasure to give this here. The title is Edge Matching of National Inspired Datasets at European State Boundaries. My name is Markus Brühl and I'm coming from the country which is famous for its attractive and modern football. And I'm working at the Federal Agency for Cartography and Geodesy, so the German National Mapping Agency. You can see I have only 3 topics on the agenda. First, I want to highlight that's the scope of my presentation, so specific changes of the Inspire implementation. Then I will speak about the state boundaries, which is not only the topic but also the name of a project run by EuroGeographics. And this is also including edge matching. I don't know if you know EuroGeographics. This is a membership association of all national agencies responsible for mapping, cadastre and land registry. And so BKG is a member of EuroGeographics. And the clear aim of this association is to further the development of the European SDI and to help and support the members to implement, of course, also Inspire. So a number of projects and run by EuroGeographics can be seen as some kind of best practice of Inspire implementation. So what are specific changes of the Inspire implementation? I'm really glad to see that we are now in the phase of implementation of Inspire, not speaking only about defining infrastructure, but also really to implementing it at national level. As far as I can see it, the most public authorities responsible for the implementation of Inspire are busy at the moment to identify which data sets are needed to be provided within the Inspire context and how to set up the needed services for these data sets and how to transform the data to the Inspire data specifications. Though I've seen a number of presentations during this conference, and I really think that the most national mapping agencies are really busy with these tasks and not really thinking about specific issues which have to be considered in this. I think challenges are to answer those questions. What are the real boundaries of my data which I will provide for Inspire? What are the outlines of this, and how do these boundaries match with data from other organizations? And also, what is the level of detail? What is the scale of my data? And finally, how are my national features, which are cross-border features, matching with data from neighboring countries? I think this is not really in the focus of the national mapping and cadastre agencies up to now. There was a good example in the morning session here, where we had an example from the Lake of Constance area. So there was Michael Müller from IET CCAT. They had a project for this Lake of Constance concerning 4 data providers from 3 countries, and they really raised this question: does the Inspire data match along the borders? And their answer was, in this project it was more or less okay. But after all, there were some edge matching issues which were not solved as far as I understood it. Here you have an example. If you have, let's say, the watercourse network from Germany and from Poland, and in this case, it's even of the same level of detail. It's a medium scale here. And if you want really to benefit from these two Inspire data sets in a pan-European context, you need agreed state boundaries where your data is matching to. I've collected a number of statements during this conference, for instance from EuroGeographics, who said in the panel discussion on Monday, Inspire doesn't really cover quality of data. And this is a pity. And on the other side, there was this clear advice from Ian Jackson in the plenary yesterday morning that if we want to take the full advantage of Inspire data, that we have to add value at European level. To overcome the situation, EuroGeographics has introduced a project a couple of years ago, and the name is State Boundaries of Europe. The goal is to compile a multipurpose database of those state boundaries of Europe, meant to be the definite description of all European state boundaries. So really the legal definition of all state boundaries based on boundary treaties agreed between neighboring countries and the boundary commissions, really precise geometric descriptions with ETRS 89 coordinates set up on the boundary points, marks and lines. And as I said, it was established a few years ago, and we had to realize that it's not only necessary to have this on treaty level, on cadastre level, but to provide also databases of state boundaries in different level of detail, so generalized version for use in medium scale, for instance. So this is now also in the scope of the SPE project. Yeah, you can see in this table how what our aim is at the moment. We think about 3 levels of detail: treaty level, so classical cadastre scale, where we will really collect the high precision coordinates of the boundary points and lines. We realized that this is a long-term issue, and I will show you on the next slide why. Then we thought we need let's say a master data level, so large scales, 1 to 10,000, or maybe up to 1 to 50,000, depending what is the basic scale of the national topographic or cadastral databases. And finally, we need for a European context, we will also need this regional level of detail, so medium scale, 1 to 100,000, 1 to 250,000. And this can be realized in a shorter time period. I will show you that later. So you may ask, what is the problem all about with the state boundaries? They should be defined. They are defined somewhere. What is the problem? And the national mapping agencies have to deliver those boundaries within the Inspire context up to the end of the year for the theme administrative units or for cadastral parcels. But do you know what the countries will deliver? They will deliver what they have in their database. And this will not be, in some cases at least, not be in line with the way this state boundary is represented in the databases of neighboring countries. So what we got as answer when we asked for the real precise definition of boundaries we got the answers that it is really difficult to get this because all these informations are laid down in historical documents. Some contains coordinates, some even not. And if there are coordinates of boundary points, it is sometimes difficult to transform the coordinates to ETR's 89 coordinates. And in some cases, new surveying campaigns are needed, and of course, such campaigns are costly and time-consuming. And you may even think of cultural differences between neighboring countries where it is sometimes difficult to negotiate about something. And finally, some European state boundaries are in dispute, really. Even for Germany, where we have in the sea an area which is claimed by Germany and the Netherlands. And what I remember from a presentation from Arnulf Christel on a workshop on the weekend, he said we would live in an ideal world if there would be no history of the source data. But there is a history of the source data. So what we think we can achieve in short time as realization for the SPE database is the realization in a regional level of detail, medium scale. Why? Because we have already existing databases at European level compiled from the topographic source data of the EuroGeographics members. And these reference databases are EuroBoundaryMap, EBM, including the administrative layer for the whole European coverage, and EuroRegional Map, containing also the other topographic layers, so the classical Annex 1 themes, transport, hydro, and something like that. And for these data products, we have already negotiated between the participating countries about agreed delineation of the state boundaries, and we have also edge-matched those data. There are some inconsistencies, but I think we can clarify that till the end of the year, so that we at the end of the year really have a data set for this level of detail containing all European state boundaries. Now I want to go a bit further, not only to agree on state boundaries, but to agree on edge matching of cross-border features. Just as a short definition, what you can understand on edge matching in the scope of INSPIRE. Edge matching comprises all process steps needed to combine INSPIRE national data sets in order to achieve a geometrical, topological, and semantic cross-boundary consistency. And we have thought a while how it is possible to store all those edge matching information, because we have already run this for our current data products, and our idea was how to store what we have already done and to put it in a broader scope. And in a project called ESTIN, we established a concept called connecting features. So the definition of these features is connecting features are locations on the state boundaries where edge-matched geographic entities from neighboring countries connect to. So such connecting features deal as an anchor for repeatable edge matching. And this will be also realized during this year based on existing data. So these data sets, EBM, EuroBoundaryMap, and ERM, EuroRegional Map, are the medium-scale authoritative data from the national mapping agencies. I will show you a small sketch for this. So you can see here in gray a state boundary and a watercourse network in blue, and in the yellow dots are the connecting features. What are we going to store in this state boundaries of Europe database? I don't know if you can read it. For the state boundaries, in this case it's a state boundary between Czech Republic and Poland, the data model for this feature type is directly taken from the Annex 1 theme administrative unit. So we have reused administrative boundaries. So and you see the core Inspire attributes with the ID and the life cycle information, and then the properties defined by the data specification administrative units, country, legal status and technical status. And we have extended this by 3 additional attributes. So we want to know for the state boundaries when was the last measurement, what is the accuracy of this version, and is this boundary a moving boundary. So for some countries, I think Sweden and Finland, there is the boundary defined on the watercourse, and though it is moving its shape from time to time, so this can be included here. And for the edge match, for the connecting features, we want to store a point feature on the boundary, again with the classical Inspire core attributes, and then a status attribute, the country again, and the feature type it is referring to. In case of a feature which is located on the boundary, this can be presented by 2 connecting features at the beginning and the end of the object. So I don't want to bother you with this data model, but at least I want to highlight that we have a data type, a table containing some basic metadata, then this core element, the state boundary, this feature type. Again, I want to repeat this. This is coming from the Annex 1 data specification of administrative units, extended by additional properties. And then we can also store another kind of metadata with the state boundaries, so information on which treaty it is described, some contact information, and this upper part here, this lower part here is this data concept for edge matching. I don't want to go in detail here. My conclusions are edge matching to agreed state boundaries is really needed to make a real use of inspired data sets in a pan-European context, and not only on the national view. I want to repeat that in this SPE project we will provide the legal definition of state boundaries for different level of details, and additional this edge matching concept, and the first realization of this will be for regional level of detail. It means medium scale. So this is the last slide of my presentation, just the contact information and some references. You can see something about these projects, of course, on the EuroGeographics website. And if you are especially interested in this edge matching concept, you may refer to a deliverable of the STEAM project. Thanks a lot for your attention, and now you are welcome to raise your questions, or you add some remarks, or to share your opinion on this. Thanks.
Again, we're very well done for keeping in time, Marcus, and very, very interesting. One question from me, first of all. What's the timescale of the project? I understand you're still doing this.
So, the project has started a few years ago. The first realization will be end of the year, that we will have a database in regional level of detail, which we can use within our national mapping agencies, but we will also promote this in one way or another to the whole Inspire community. to reuse this. It's not clarified how to do this, but at least I will announce this here. And for all other level of details, I think for a more detailed level in a master scale, so in a large scale, it will be probably end of next year or the year after. For the treaty level, I will not announce anything. So right now we have boundaries from about 5 or 6 countries. So we will see when we reach a point when we have a significant number of those boundaries in the database to get this out, but I'm pretty sure that for specific boundaries it will take years.
Okay. This is
to
an
be
important
honest.
message. Thank you. Any other questions for Marcus? We have time for one more. Daria again, and then I'll come to you. I'll take a second. So Daria first, please.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask you if you will include the boundaries on the lakes and on the seas as well, on the seas like exclusive economic zones and territorial seas and other types of zones. Thank you.
So, what I've presented up to now is the state boundaries on land or on lakes which are directly inside the countries. We are also thinking about the maritime boundaries. This will be the next step. So this will be clarified also in different level of details. I guess the maritime boundaries probably in regional level of detail end of next year, something like that. So why I'm saying in regional level of detail, because we have already data sets there where it is clarified and where we can take it.
Very interesting. I hope all this data will be open data. Can you comment on that?
I would hope really that we will make it open to the whole community and free. But I cannot announce that.
Not yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you once again to Marcus. Thank you.